everything you do from today forward, you got to think, will this make the bike go faster? And I wrote it on the side of my wall when I was a kid. When I woke up in the morning, boom, will it make my bike go faster? What am I eating in the afternoon? How am I recovering? What am I reading? What am I putting into my head? But even to this day, as an executive coach, leadership team coach, I ask myself in the morning, will this make my business more efficient? And will this make my clients grow bigger than they ever thought they would?
Do you want to know the secret to success? Welcome to rulesforsuccess.com, a platform that unites the accomplished and the ambitious. We're here to arm you with the invaluable knowledge of individuals who have paved their own path to success. And now let's get into the show with dynamic host Joseph Varghese.
All right, Joseph Varghese here, rulesforsuccess.com. I'm excited today, beyond excited. I've got an extraordinary gentleman, entrepreneur, executive coach, author on the podcast today, someone who's so aligned with the work we do across the communities I lead, success circles and beyond. You can tap into this podcast at rulesforsuccess.com. As a reminder, mind map, summary, notes, and even we do a shorter podcast. We'll be taking bites from this too as well. Scott Rusnak is an entrepreneur, executive coach, author, expert EOS implementer. He co-founded the education company Schoologic, has spent more than 30 years building and advising businesses, and he's worked with thousands of entrepreneurs since 2008. Before entering business, Scott completed internationally as a cyclist. He has served as a board-certified coach for the U.S. and British Olympics teams. Wow. His latest audiobook, Who is the Architect of Your Life?, challenges high achievers to deliberately design their goals, relationships, calendar, and future rather than allowing other people's priorities to design their lives for them. I'm excited, and I've been listening to Scott's audiobooks on Audible, and so I've been listening to Scott much of today, right, in the background, and I get to actually see and talk to Scott. Scott, how are you today? What's cooking?
I couldn't be better, and I'm glad you talked about life design. You got to design your life before someone does it for you. And with that, I had an amazing surf session this morning, and life couldn't be better.
Amazing. Life by design. And how many days do you go surfing? And what part of the world are you in? Tell your audience.
I'm in Solana Beach, California today, just North County, San Diego. And I'm a fair weather surfer. At the spry age of 60, I need really good conditions and favorable conditions. But when that happens, I'm out there. So maybe about 50 days a year, I'll surf.
Incredible. And you were an athlete for like most of your life, right? From a young age, you were an athlete. I've listened to your audiobook, and you go deep into that journey. To talk about that, I really want to talk about entrepreneurship and the lessons, because I really believe a lot from sports can be applied to business. It's changed my life being in sports in high school and college. It's something we encourage our kids to participate in. In our members of our community success circles, we challenge our members to see the life as a sport. Every day is a game. There's a chance to play and get on the court and play better and play bigger and smarter. But tell us about your journey as an athlete, because that really inspires me. Like that whole journey of multiple sports to getting focused on one sport and being a leader. To talk to us.
Dang. Well, we'll get to focus in a second. But as a young kid, I tried to do it all. Baseball, soccer, rugby, hockey. I grew up in Western Canada, cross-country skiing, downhill skiing, speed skating, and I was all over the map. And I would play these sports. I would have a coach or two that'd be like, hey, if you focused on one or two things, you could probably be pretty good at this. And, the hardest part for me, Joseph, was I'm 60 years old now. So let's call it back in 1975, they started to give every kid a medal for just showing up. And I remember finishing second, third, or fourth place and as a team or individually, and I would throw that medal on the ground like, that's crap. And the coaches would be like, you can't do that in front of other people. If you're that driven, you can throw that in the waste bin when you get home. And so what that allowed me to do, and my parents would give me a hard time too. I'm a very sore loser even to this day. They said, you got to go back to your coaches and think about what you're going to focus on to get everything you want. And so this all started at a very young age.
Got it. And One thing I've learned over the years is the idea that where tension or focus goes, energy flows. So it's good you had a coach at an early age to encourage, challenge you. I mean, you were at top performance levels. You competed in some extraordinary races amongst the best. Going through the podcast, even one of your closest friends, colleagues who mentored you, went into the Tour de France and like was a leader in that race specifically.
Yeah.
So you had some great people by your side, encouraging, challenging you on that journey, right?
The thing I figured out, and I had an incredible cycling coach, and he said, Rusnak, I'm going to put you in a pack with some elite competitors because I know you can stick with them.
Hmm.
Reality was I couldn't, but I did. And so there were 7 or 8 guys in this group. Some were professionals, some were in the Tour de France. In fact, one of the guys was the first North American to win the yellow jersey, Alex Stida.
Hmm.
And so when people would see me riding with these people, they thought, well, Scott must be a professional cyclist. He must be going to the Tour de France, which couldn't have been farther from the truth at that young age. But I was surrounding myself with people of the pedigree and the drive, not always the talent, but the drive to be world class. When I realized when I could start hanging with those people, entering the odd race with them, and then take advantage from their coaching and then their coach, who I sort of grabbed hold of later on, I started to realize I could accomplish some pretty okay things.
I love the nature about proximity, being in company of other people, and rising to that, the whole principle of masterminds. Now, I have a Peloton behind me, and we bought the Peloton a decade ago, right? So I cycle once in a while. I do races here and there. One of the concepts in the Peloton that inspired me is this idea of cadence. And it's like you match cadence to music, you match cadence to other writers around you. In our community success circles, I've written a few articles about this idea of cadence and matching cadence with people. And as you do that, you rise potentially faster and better, especially specifically if they're people of high integrity. Like what was the value for you on that journey as a cyclist and later in life, running a business, being an executive coach, on that idea of cadence and being around those right people, those leaders?
Perfect tee up, by the way. It really is. My coach told me that you become a product of the 5 to 6 people you hang around with the most. And this was at an age of 17, 18, 19. And let's have some fun with this. In Western Canada, where I grew up, I think the drinking age was 8, or 9 or 10. So you could do a lot of crazy things back then. But I decided I was going to focus so much in cycling that he said, think about the 5 to 6 people you're going to surround yourself with and really lean in with them. You're going to learn more from them. And as I started to grow, he said, good, now we're going to design your life around your highest and best use. And Dan Sullivan came up with that term, but the highest and best use.
Yes.
And coach then said, every decision you're going to make from today forward, you got to think about one thing. And it's a Stoic sort of phrase. It's called an implementation intention. It said, everything you do from today forward, you got to think, will this make the bike go faster? And with that thought in my head, and I wrote it on the side of my wall when I was a kid, when I woke up in the morning, boom, will it make my bike go faster? I'm doing a training ride. Will this make me go faster? What am I eating in the afternoon? How am I recovering? What am I reading? What am I putting into my head? And we could go for hours about that. But even to this day, as an executive coach and a leadership team coach, I ask myself in the morning, will this make my business more efficient? And will this make my clients grow bigger than they ever thought they would?
Incredible. I love that. In the world of business and how people show up in business, I'm curious, this idea of state management is something that was taught to me years ago by Tony Robbins, 25 years ago. And it's how we show up in the moment, how intentional. A lot of it is the fuel we put in our body and so forth for meetings, board meetings, partnerships. This is a question I often ask people later in the episode, but you kind of brought something up here. I'm curious, what are some practices you recommend to your clients on kind of managing their state, their intentionality as they go into their day? And this is a big part of our business too, the idea of we have huddles and success circles and one-on-one, and people challenge each other. And I'm just curious, what are some things you do perhaps, or maybe you encourage others to do to kind of manage their internal state so that they can show up even better in business and in life?
Yeah. I teach them a word that babies learn really early often, but adults we don't want to use.
Mm.
And the word is not mama or dada, it's no.
Mm. Mm.
Little babies become really good at going, no, no, or they push it aside or they cry.
Yeah.
Adults, we want to please people. We want to take on every collaboration, every opportunity, every referral. Our calendars become so full with the wrong opportunity. And so when you come home at the end of the day or it's a weekend, you feel like you've been crushed by 1,000-pound weight and it's all on your shoulders.
Yeah.
So what I get them to do, I say to them, look, I need you to look at who you're surrounding yourself with and figure out what a hell yes is. So a hell yes opportunity, and this is one of them, to be on your podcast. Thank you. Super cool podcast, great history, 100 some interviews you've done. I looked at this and said, is this my highest and best use? I think so. And so what I say to my clients, you've got to look at your daily, your weekly, your monthly, and then your calendar for 18 months out.
Yeah. Wow.
And I know it's crazy, right? But if you can put space in every 90 days for those most important, 5 most important people, and really get tactical with that every 90 days, then you can shrink it down and say, okay, well, every month, what's my highest and best use? What should I be doing? Shrink it down even further to the week and the day. You've got these limited spots in your day where you've got red zone energy. You're ready to go. You can't be ready to go all the time. And if you think you are, you're fooling yourself.
Yeah.
So you've got to have an ebb and flow of the energy in your day. Red zone, I call it, where you're on. Blue zone is where it's calm and quiet. Green is where you get ready. And yellow is where you're kind of like, whoa, yield. So that was a lot, but it's really important. When I teach them that over the course of a couple of years, they become really free. They've got the absolute ability to say yes to the right things.
Love it. I love it, especially how it's color coded, like being visually kind of connected to things. Very valuable. And in alignment to that, so you describe business as being a ball, right? That can bounce back, while maybe family, faith, health, big rocks, right? That can be considered maybe glass balls, right? That can shatter when dropped. So what should an entrepreneur do when you realize they've already been dropping some of those glass balls, hence family, faith, health, the things that are of maybe higher value that kind of set the context to everything else they do in their life, perhaps, including business?
Love it. As entrepreneurs, we're always juggling, right? Always. So the way I love to frame it is family is a glass ball, work is a glass ball, faith and health, they're all glass balls. You're juggling those 4. And then the other one that can be really heavy is business. So you're juggling these 5 balls. I will say if you drop the family ball, it can shatter.
Yeah.
You have to glue it up again. That's going to be hard. There's going to be broken pieces. So family, faith, health, that stuff, you've got to really make sure that you hold that tight because it can shatter. But your business will always bounce back. And we could argue and be like, well, the recession was hard and this and that was hard. But if we have big picture thinking of 10, 20, 30 years out, we're surrounding ourselves with the right people, things will bounce back properly. But make sure you don't drop that. We were talking earlier, I'm going to say this. Joseph's mother had a heart transplant about 30 years ago?
30 years ago, yes. She's the oldest living heart transplant survivor at Mount Sinai Hospital. And I see her 4 days a week. My sister sees her every day almost. So we're both like collaborating toward fueling her to she stays alive and she has a vision for the future.
I'm telling you, brother, like that is impactful. You cannot drop that ball. And I'm really envious. My mom lives up in Canada. I can't see her all the time. I have to intentionally go and see her. So you got to really make sure that part of your life is there because you can't drop it.
Yeah, 100%.
Pretty incredible.
100%. And we often challenge members of our communities to prioritize those things too for themselves, especially if they're of value. And if it, I mean, I just look at family and faith as being integral to everything else. It's the context, it's the page that holds everything else together. And once those things are lost or dropped, or everything else falls apart, and we can easily be addicted to our work as entrepreneurs or any role, if we're a leader. My wife's a physician. She's, she has a big role in the hospital she works in. And it's easy to focus on one thing and drop everything else. And I'm curious, what happens to your clients? I know over the years, you've mentored like 1,000 clients you've worked with since 2008. Before that too, as in the world of the Olympics. So what happens when somebody drops one of those glass balls?
Yeah. Well, I'm going to back it up and then I'll get there. Let's not forget, if you're watching or listening to this, self-care is not being selfish. Self-care is really important with your spouse, your partner, your life, your health. And saying no to things should give you freedom. It'll take that weight off of your back. But if we take on too much, we're not going to be able to compete at the level we want. A really good friend of mine and former client, Billy DeBung, was the first North American to win an Olympic gold medal in Nordic combined. And I think he went to 3 Olympics. Finally, in his final Olympics in Vancouver, Canada, he started to say no to all kinds of things. They didn't stay at the Olympic Village. They came back to Salt Lake City. They trained in secret, and they really designed the right moments for them. And they said no to a lot of the Olympic experience. He's like, that's going to drain my energy, my mental capacity, my psychological safety. And I'm going to surround myself with these people I'm going to say hell yes to.
Yeah.
And his teammate and him were lucky enough to work with one another. And he drafted Billy out. So Billy drafted behind him to win the Olympic gold medal, said yes to the right things and no to the wrong things.
Love it. So
crazy.
It is very, very vital. It's so great. So important to yes to right things, especially if those things are in your zone of genius, they give you energy. And knowing also your strengths. When we spoke last time, you talked about your Colby and some of the personality profiling tests out there. What are your thoughts on that? I know Dan Sullivan talks about Colby. Yeah. I'm sure Gino does too, because he's been trained by Dan, that whole world. What are your thoughts about the nature of all these strengths tests and how they apply to entrepreneurs and knowing thyself? What do you think about that?
Well, as a kid that tried to drop out of high school many times, I'm not a fan of tests in general, but these personality tests, I get a kick out of them. Culture Index, I'm a daredevil. Some of my clients are, oh no. I'm like, no, that means that I'm going to stretch the limits. I'm going to show you how to push further. In Colby, I'm a 5 fact finder in the middle, but I'm a 9 quick start. So that tells people I'm going to move quick when I have the facts, but I'm going to break some rules. In DISC, I'm a driver. So I think they're really useful if you're going to take the slivers that will help you, but then look at the things that are hindering you and find someone else. We'll go to Dan Sullivan, who, not how. Okay. I'm not a good follow through, and I've got an incredible assistant named Melissa. She follows through with appointments and invoices and making sure my calendar and my wife's calendar are aligned. Yeah. So use those personality profiling tools to find your weaknesses, find someone else to help you with those so they become your strengths, and you'll be on the road to success.
Love it. Staying in your zone of genius, staying in flow state perhaps, and doing things that energize you. And as you mentioned before, you started your day today specifically earlier on surfing, right? So maybe being in a podcast energizes you. It's recognizing what that is. When I found out 25 years ago I was an extrovert by doing a Myers-Briggs, I was useful because working in a data center, doing cybersecurity, internet security back then.
Wow.
Something was dying within me. So just recognizing that, maybe even making choices in your business around that too. I love that. It's really, really great. Really great. Protecting calendar. So you've said that white space on the calendar is a bandit waiting to steal your time, right? So before an entrepreneur schedules meetings, business goals, and maybe, they would have an integrator or chief of staff like you have in your team. What should be protected first?
Yeah, I go to something called Dunbar's number. You've got to protect the relationships with the most important people in your life. And Dunbar said there's 5 to 6 people in your life that you've got to hold close. They may know you better than you know yourself, and they're going to poke you in the nose when you're doing things that aren't exactly true to your character or your purpose. Wow. So you block the time in your calendar for those people first. You got to do that first. And the next could be the next 15, as he calls it. Those could be your clients, could be colleagues, or other people who are important in your life. And then he went on to say the next group of people you block your calendar around can't be more than 150 people. You know, this Instagram, Facebook, I always have a bad joke, the MySpace generation, right?
Right.
Thousands and thousands of followers. Well, those people are not people you should be surrounding yourself with. So you got to look at your own Dunbar's number, your concentric rings, and plan your life around the 5, then the 15, and then that greater group. That gives you the ability to block. So just to jump on that, I'm a big believer that if you've got white space, blank space in your calendar, someone's going to jump on that and they're going to take your time and they're going to insert themselves in your day and it's going to blow up.
Yeah. It's sometimes I have other leaders I've worked with, even people on our podcast, who have, it's impossible to schedule time with them unless they go through their chief of staff, like that person. I've even named some of my AI that Meg, because I was modeling somebody from EO, a leader in EO years ago, who named her chief of staff Meg. And that's often useful as a means to have another element of accountability, and even sometimes qualify people before they schedule a call or meeting, because as you mentioned before, having followers, and we've got hundreds of emails each day for different things each day, and being able to say no to those things and research those things too, whether it's leveraging AI to kind of research the inbox, which one is legitimate, or having a real person, which is even better at times, or in combination, is very useful to set those boundaries, because we have to protect ourselves, saying no, as you mentioned before. So I love that.
Well, and I take it a little bit further, and I color code my days of the week. Okay, so today is a buffer day for me, so it's yellow. And then during this yellow day, I knew I was going to serve. I was going to take care of some business stuff. And when the opportunity came up a month or two ago, I want to do this with Joseph on this day. I'm not going to say yes to my neighbors down the street to go to the backyard barbecue tonight, because that's going to steal my time and my energy. I'm saying yes to my wife and my dog Roxy to go for a walk on the beach and maybe have a glass of wine after. So don't be afraid to color code your weeks. Yellow being, okay, that's my buffer day. Red being, that's my focus day. Blue days could be preparation days. So you figure out if you're colorblind or not colorblind, how you want to do that. Boy, it makes a big difference. And then you can add that to your day as well. Different color codes, what have you.
When I learned the concept years ago by Dan Sullivan, he calls it the entrepreneurial time system. It shifted everything. Last year, I made my Tuesdays a play day, I call it, but it's very much a buffer day for the most part. And what's the value of that? So we talk to our clients about entrepreneurs, the nature of modeling athletes, as Dan talks about that, and how the top athletes take time off each year, 2-3 months off a year. This is also, I'm sure Gino talks about this too in EOS, that whole framework. What's the advantage of taking time off, being able to disconnect, to recharge? How would you frame that as an athlete and somebody who's also coached Olympic athletes? As well as entrepreneurs.
Let's go to the World Cup. So I've not yet coached a Premier League soccer football player. That would be cool. So if you're out there and you need a coach, call me. But the Premier League cycle actually started the other night. Wrexham was playing Liverpool in Yankee Stadium. Okay, so they're going to go all year to the end of May. And then they've got these other World Cup tournaments, or I think it's the FIFA Club World Cup. So these athletes are not getting the break. And I will bet, based on the latest World Cup cycle, Premier League cycle, La Liga, whatever league you're in, you got these top performers who just finished last week. They're only going to get 2 or 3 weeks off. I think it's a 21-day mandatory break. I really hope that nobody gets injured, but I'm expecting a rash of burnout, injuries, and issues with those people who played in the World Cup because they didn't take a 2 to 3 week break every 90 days from training and all the mental and physical exertion they went through. So as an entrepreneur, we've got to do it. And I'm begging you every 90 days to take 10 days off and design nothing into that and put your Dunbar's number there. Go somewhere with those 5 amazing people and take your foot off the gas. Recover.
Amazing. And would you also say that allows for more expansive critical thinking as far as choices and better prioritization going forward, taking the time
Yeah.
off.
Yeah, absolutely. And do that in your week too. Have 3 days where you're focused like crazy. And maybe you have an easy day during the week. Maybe Monday's your buffer day and you're prepping. So
Mm-hmm.
that'll give the ability to think deeper. And then when I
Fascinating.
go into evenings, stop work. When you come back home, shut down the clock at 5 or 6 and just be present with everyone and put all your technology aside and go to bed. Everything will be there the next morning.
I love it. So, so vital. And it's fascinating because in our community, we have members who are faith-based, or they're, in some cases, they're Orthodox Jewish.
Yeah.
And it's part of their religion is to take off the Sabbath, the Sabbath or the Shabbat off Friday evening to Saturday evening. And I've noticed many, if not most of these people, these leaders, entrepreneurs, would come back to the playing field come Sunday or Monday when they start their day. So much more focused, engaged, proactive, intentional, by really turning everything off, by being untethered for the duration of those 24 hours. It's very, very fascinating to me. And that's where I first learned some of these concepts around this, even before Dan's work years ago. Extraordinary.
And Dan's work ties perfectly into athletics. So that entrepreneurial athletic tie-in. If you want to do intervals for a day, let's say you're doing a 3-hour interval session, 8 reps up and down a hill, you're like, I call it bleeding out of your eyes. The next day has got to be an easy buffer day. And then the third day should be a nothing day. Your body needs to rest to grow. So does your business. So does your mind. And if you're not resting, you're not getting what you want.
So I love the concept of being an architect of your life. And that's the nature of the title of your book. I love that. I'm an engineer. It's my background. What does it mean for someone to really own and be the architect of their life?
Yeah. Deep question. There's a 3-hour audio book about it, but I'll try to summarize it into surround yourself with the right people. Go to Dunbar's number. At EOS, Gino developed a great tool called the People Analyzer. Put your core values into that People Analyzer and make sure everyone you're surrounding yourself with, core value number 1 for me is humbly confident. I knew that about you. There's no ego, no chest beating. Do what you say what we do, and then live with purpose. Leave people in a better place than you found them. So for me, I'm going to find people who fit my core values, and I better GWC them, and they better GWC me, which means they better get me, and I can be quirky. They better want to hang out with me and have the capacity. And I shine that light on those folks as well. So Dunbar's number and the People Analyzer will really help you build a filter for who you're going to bring into your life, and then maybe some people who shouldn't be in your life.
Yeah, absolutely. So vital. Even for myself, so many lessons out of that. That's something I'm going to go deeper into Dunbar's number after this session.
Pretty cool.
Let's talk about failure as an architect. So you've said that you're glad that you failed. I'm sure we all have failures, right? Every entrepreneur's failures. Several clients have gone through multiple bankruptcies, and they came out better and stronger in their 50s and 60s. Yeah. Which failure redesigned you most deeply, and what rule did you build into your life because of it?
Yeah. I got 3 instances. I'll go to the first, which is easy enough to describe. I was trying to be, one of the top hockey players in Western Canada. You don't get a lot of 5'8", 150 guys who are top hockey players, but I thought I was going to be, and I didn't listen. So I just focused on hockey. But in the summer, I just focused on cycling, tried to do them both. I didn't become a professional hockey player or a professional cyclist. My cycling coach was like, dude, if you would have just done this, here's what could have happened. And I was lucky enough to go to Worlds and get a top 10, but I didn't get a pro contract because you don't focus. We can tell you're all over the map. And when I went to college, Joseph, I thought that was a failure. I'm like, dang, I really let myself down. But then I started to realize, and I found a new cycling coach, and he got me pointed in the right direction. Said, look, we're going to build off of that. And now you know what failure looks like. And it allowed me to just crank it out. And I built all that into my businesses as well. And just make sure that I'm focused on the right stuff at the right time and saying no to the wrong things at the right time.
We have so I'm a big into sports. I really am. And we encourage that in our community to embrace that idea. Over the years, we've got into friction from some of our clients who may not be as athletic, or they might not watch sports. So we found other metaphors, like for example, dancing, right? Imagine every day is a
Yeah.
dance, you're on the dance floor, but it's
Yeah.
whatever works for you, whatever form of movement, engagement, playing in life works for you. So just reminders to our clients or people listening to this that um, even though we are talking about athletics and sports, which is so vital, right? It's such an important part of life. And our kids, were immersing them into choices as far as direction, as far as sports and being part of a team collaboration. There are different ways of playing this if you choose to.
I love
Really
it.
great.
Well, I talk to my leadership teams because some of them are saying, it's like, sports, we get it. Okay, let's pretend this is an orchestra.
Mm.
We got a tuba, we got a violin, we got I'm not very good at music, a guitar, maybe a trumpet.
Mm.
Too much tuba is not a good thing. Too much violin isn't a good thing. So let's figure out who's going to orchestrate this. Let's make sure we're playing from the same sheet of music, game plan.
Mm.
And when we all come together properly in this orchestra, it's going to sound beautiful.
Mm. Beautiful. Love the analogy. Let's talk about identity. So after building companies, so you've gone through different identities over the years, being a athlete to being an athlete for a coach for athletes. Sorry about that. Building your company, and then moving to coaching. So what's been the biggest challenge for you around shifting or losing an identity and embracing a new identity? I know a lot of founders out there, they're having to continuously reinvent themselves. Given the age of AI and given the amount of disruption that's happening in their field, they're having to reshift things, and it can be challenging. What would you say to that, Scott?
I love it. Reinvention needs to happen all the time. And I say I'm the youngest 60-year-old on the planet because I feel like I'm 25. There's so many cool things coming at us again. When Y2K was going down, that was the greatest thing that happened from our business because we had enough digits. We were, we got lucky, let's call it. When '08 happened, I was exiting from one company. I knew I wanted to be a coach. I got lucky again. I had to reinvent myself. There were a lot of failing executives and businesses. Boy, I got busy. When COVID came in, I wasn't such a fan of meeting like this. Like we're meeting virtually. I reinvented my practice and it was really great for me. I don't do a lot of this. Well, now with AI, I look at that as a gift. It's going to make me more efficient. And if we look at AI as a tool that'll make us more efficient and get our time back, then it's an advantage. But if we look at AI as that's going to replace me, then you need to look at yourself and say, well, why are you so replaceable? You should really grasp these technologies and make yourself better. Make yourself better and allow it to push you a little bit harder.
Very well said. We challenge our clients to embrace AI as fully as possible, and it's all evolving, and there's a lot of disruption, and we've got to be prepared for it. And even planning forward, even forecasting what could happen over the next few years as this technology keeps evolving. Really great.
Well, and let's have a long-term mindset for it as well. So many people are worried like, oh, what's going to happen, within 30, 60, 90 days. Let's have a 10-year outlook with AI. Like I'll be 70. I can't wait for what it's going to look like. I don't have an AI-driven refrigerator. That's not going to work. But what are the things that can help you get everything you want from your life? I think they're there. We just have to discover them.
Absolutely. Being open to it is very useful. I found that the moment we judge something, our ability to influence it dwindles, and that often happens with even technology. Or to use it, our ability to use technology dwindles too, because we're judging it in a certain way, maybe based on the context of how it was first presented. So always having an open mind, embracing more awe, wonder. And I imagine with the work you do, being outdoors and balancing being on the beach and family time and dates and taking more buffer days, freedom days, you've got more opportunity to embrace a bit more awe and wonder in your life. What are your thoughts about that, and maybe how you engage clients to disconnect and recharge? And what are your thoughts about that?
Ignore the noise. There's so much noise, so much media. Ignore that stuff. Put it aside. Get clear on what you love to do and you're great at, Get clear on what you don't like and what you're not good at, and really figure out your purpose, your why. And what do you want your life to look like when you're 80 years old? You're looking back going, dang, how many people did I help? Did I make a massive impact on this world? Am I doing what I love to do? And am I fairly compensated? And when we can pull together a life like that, gosh, anything's possible.
Amazing. Fulfillment is a big part of that. Really aligning with the why.
Yeah.
Really, really wonderful. Really great. Let's talk about so success is not a solo sport, and we covered some of that. Your background in recent years has been a coach in the world of EOS, and EOS stands for Entrepreneurial Operating System. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I know you originally tried to implement EOS yourself back in the days, at least from what I researched, and I think your employees called it the Scott operating system, perhaps at the time.
Oh, they did. Stands for SOS, Save Our Souls.
Yeah, I love it. Now I got that.
Yeah.
I love it. At what point does entrepreneurial self-reliance stop being a strength and become an ego? And when should somebody go out there and bring on an EOS implementation coach or an expert like yourself, who's also got a background in many arenas, not just EOS?
Yeah, it's good. Let me talk about that failure when I self-implemented SOS, the Scott operating system. I read Gino's book when it first came out. I'm like, this is simple. I had read Patrick Lencioni's 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. That's simple, right? All this simple stuff. And I thought I could pull off the simple stuff within my business. We're going to create level 10 weekly meetings, rocks. We got a VTO, a 2-page business planning document. And my employers were like, okay, all this came from your head and we're just supposed to do it. Like, I just told them what to do. And Daniel Pink, I learned from him because in his book, Drive, people need to self-actualize and really set that vision and those values and what it's going to look like to buy in. There was no buy-in. And the other part, there was no third-party coach pointing out our weaknesses and here's a pitfall, or are you really implementing this tool properly, or are you just kind of checking a box?
Yeah.
So it wasn't until I brought a coach in to do it properly, we stopped checking the boxes and really allowed the employees, the leaders in the business to set the direction. We started to self-actualize, which I think is the highest state of human living.
Yes.
Because we rallied around the purpose and the why, and we pulled it off. So I needed a coach. Even the coach needed a coach, and it was pretty dang obvious.
Sometimes having somebody external to the business can make a difference too, as far as accountability goes. Very, very often so, because we often have a way of listening to the founder or the leader based on the context of how we've been interacting with that person. So very, very well said. Many of our members in Success Circles, they've been scaling faster and better, just simply bringing on an EOS coach. And sometimes even sure coaches too. They'll recommend this person and then several other people use that same person too. And it's fascinating to watch and see. We look at a lot of data surveys and so forth. So I challenge people to consider EOS. When I first built this community, it was under the direction of Michael Gerber 20 years ago. Wow. And I got present to, Michael's 90 years old, same age as my mom now. And I got present to Dan's work. And there's some great books, Ben Hardy and Dan Sullivan, and some great books. A lot of great resources out there, but often having somebody external, having a coach who can look at things from the outside in, look at people's Kobe scores, look at their numbers, KPIs, all of that can be really extraordinary and valuable. And I've seen that time and time again with our members, simply from having somebody on the outside. And really, really great, Scott. Scott, any other tips you have? Any other rules for success for our audience? The things that they can embrace. And after all the companies, the exits you've been part of, that you've coached, competition coaching, managing family. Any rules for success that you have? Anything else that you'd offer to our audience?
Yeah, I come to a thought that's important to me. It's this concept called Johari window. And there's this thing over here that people know about you and you don't know about yourself. And people are not going to tell you about things you don't know, things you're like, it's called self-sabotaging behaviors or different directions you're headed in. So what I urge everyone to do is find a coach, find a mentor that gets to know them so deeply that they can enter that window and say, hey, Joseph, you're doing this or saying that. I think it's hurting you and not helping you. And it wasn't until I found those people in my life that I was able to really charge forward. I'm not perfect, but they're certainly helping me get what I want.
Awesome. I'm going to definitely tap into that. We'll share that as a resource to our community too. I'm about to go on vacation in a couple of weeks, and I've learned through all these mentors, leaders, yourself, the value of taking time off, the idea that maximum engagement demands maximum relaxation. And there's this concept, I'm curious what your thoughts about this, about an owner, the value of intentionally choosing time away from the business, maybe a week, 2 weeks, could be 17 days. That's a number that I've heard in different circles, including some of the previous podcasts you've been on. If an owner can't disappear from their business for 17 days, for 2 weeks, do they own the company, or have they built themselves a highly demanding job? I'm curious about your thoughts about that.
The company owns them. They become a slave to the business, and it's unfair. So when I say, and I talk to people, and I have a really good friend and a client, Jamie Godwin from Stevens Line Weber Construction in Phoenix. There's a plug for Jamie, but he's living it to a T. When I met him 4 or 5 years ago, I said, Jamie, what would it look like if you had this healthy, open, honest business where people were running with discipline and accountability, and if you weren't at the business for 2 weeks, they were still executing on that vision? He said, I don't know if that's possible. Well, it is now for him, because he's got a great integrator. Krista Green Morris, fantastic integrator. He's got a great business partner, Eric Powell. They've got Ryan Park driving the business. And they've got this great leadership team. He knows his numbers. He trusts his numbers. He knows what they're doing. He's able to step away because he's got this systematic business that runs the right way. So it's real. It takes a lot of work. I was going to swear there. It takes a lot of work to get there.
Yes.
But don't be afraid of it.
Yeah. And it can be fun too. If you see it as a game, as a sport, as a performance, or as an orchestra, it can be fun. It's about how you frame all this together. And I love when I see clients, members, people from EOS talk about how they left their business and it started growing like rapidly because they were the bottleneck, right? And as they stepped away, that bottleneck was no longer there. And it gave them the opportunity of going to what's next in their direction, or even maybe selling the business, perhaps they choose to, but are freed up something where burnout was no longer part of their way of being day in, day out, by being able to do that, take time off, take vacations. This is great. Scott, how do people connect with you? I know you've got a website. I believe it's scottrusnak.com, rusnak.com, scottrusnak.com. Any other ways people can connect with you from this podcast?
I'm on LinkedIn. And then funny enough, my social media person was like, you should be on Instagram. So I think I have 71 and a half followers. So we're starting that as well. So find me there. The other thing, if you don't mind, Joseph, I'm doing a session in the middle of October in Scottsdale, Arizona, for people who are maybe self-implementing EOS or not certain about it. If they reach out to me or check out my website, I'd be more than happy to have them join us there.
Incredible. Highly recommend people check out EOS, check out Scott's work. It's extraordinary. He brings his own spin to it, which I love, because it aligns with everything we do. We're all athletes. It's playing field of life, and there's always an opportunity to dare to play bigger, better, and maybe even bolder too every day. Thanks so much, Scott. For our audience out there, tap into this episode at rulesforsuccess.com. The summary, the mind map, notes. We're on Spotify. We're on Audible. We're on YouTube. We're on all channels. This has been fun. Thank you again, Scott.
Thanks, Joseph.
That's it for today's episode of rulesforsuccess.com podcast. Join us next week for another inspiring conversation with a successful entrepreneur. Until then, remember to be bold, be courageous, and go after your dreams.